Welcome, kind listener. My name is Gentle Fox. You may not know me now, but by the end of this masterpiece, you will, and I trust you'll think of me as an old friend. What you'll be hearing tonight is an excerpt from our Twitch stream. I hope you'll enjoy that extra ambiance and my soft-spoken voice as we explore Leo Tolstoy's classic, Anna Karenina. Chapter 10. As Levine entered the hotel with Oblonsky, he could not help noticing a certain special expression, as if of unrestrained radiance, on the face and in the whole figure of Stepan Arkadyevitch. Oblonsky took off his coat, and with his hat cocked passed into the restaurant, giving orders to the Tartars in tailcoats who clung to him, napkins over their arms. Bowing right and left the joyful greetings of acquaintances who turned up there, as everywhere, he went to the bar, followed his glass of vodka with a bit of fish, and said something to the pained Frenchwoman in ribbons, lace, and ringlets, who was sitting at the counter, so that even this Frenchwoman burst into genuine laughter. Levine did not drink vodka, if only because this Frenchwoman, who seemed to consist entirely of other people's hair, poudre de riz and vinaigre de toilette, was offensive to him. He hastened to step away from her as from a dirty spot. His whole soul was overflowing with the remembrance of Kitty, and in his eyes shone a small smile of triumph and happiness. "This way, your Highness, if you please. You will not be disturbed here, your Highness," said a particularly clinging, blanched old Tartar with broad hips, over which the tails of his coat parted. "Your hat, please, your Highness," he said to Levine, courting the guest as a token of respect for Stepan Arkadyevitch. Instantly spreading a false tablecloth on a round table, Instantly spreading a fresh tablecloth on a round table, already covered with a tablecloth, under a bronze lamp bracket, he drew out the velvet chairs and stood before Stepan Arkadyevitch, napkin and menu in hand, awaiting orders. "If you prefer, your Highness, a private room will presently be vacated. Prince Golitsyn and a lady. Fresh oysters have come in." "Ah, oysters!" Stepan Arkadyevitch fell to thinking. "Should we change our plan, Levin?" he said, his finger pausing on the menu, and his face showed serious perplexity. "Are they good oysters? Mind yourself." "Flensburg, your Highness. We have no Ostend oysters." "Flensburg, yes, but are they fresh?" "Came in yesterday, sir." "In that case, shouldn't we begin with oysters and then change the whole plan, eh?" "It makes no difference to me. I like shchi and kasha best, but they won't have that here." "Kasha la Russe, if you please," the Tartar said, bending over Levine like a nanny over a child. "No. Joking aside, whatever you choose will be fine. I did some skating and I'm hungry, and I don't think," he added, noticing the displeasured expression on Oblonsky's face, "that I won't appreciate your choice. I'll enjoy a good meal." "To be sure, say what you like. It is one of life's enjoyments," said Stepan Arkadyevitch. "Well, then, my good man, bring us 2. No, make it 3 dozen oysters. Vegetable soup, printanier," the Tartar picked up, but Stepan Arkadyevitch evidently did not want to give him the pleasure of naming the dishes in French. "Vegetable soup, you know. Then turbot with thick sauce, then roast beef, but mind it's good, and why not capon? Well, and some stewed fruit." The Tartar, remembering Stepan Arkadyevitch's manner of not naming dishes from the French menu, did not repeat after him, but gave himself the pleasure of repeating the entire order from the menu: "Soupe printanière, tubeau sauce bon marché, poulard de l'estragon, macédoine la frousse." And at once, as if on springs, laid aside one bound menu, picked up another, the wine list, and offered it to Stepan Arkadyevitch. "What shall we drink?" "I'll have whatever you like. Only not much. Some champagne, said Levin. What? To begin with? No, why not, in fact? Do you like the one with the white seal? Cachet blanc, the Tartar picked up. Well, so bring us that with the oysters, and then we'll see. Right, sir. What table wine would you prefer? Bring us the Nuits. No, better still the classic Chablis. Right, sir. Would you prefer your cheese? Yes, the Parmesan, unless you'd prefer something else. No, it makes no difference to me, said Levin, unable to repress a smile. And the Tartar, his tails flying over his broad hips, ran off, and 5 minutes later rushed in again with a plate of opened oysters in their pearly shells and a bottle between his fingers. Stepan Arkadyevitch crumpled the starched napkin, tucked it into his waistcoat, and, resting his arms comfortably, applied himself to the oysters. Not bad, he said, peeling the sloshy oysters from their pearly shells with a little silver fork and swallowing them one after another. Not bad, he repeated, raising his moist and shining eyes now to Levin, now to the Tartar. Levin ate the oysters, though white bread and cheese would have been more to his liking. But he admired Oblonsky. Even the Tartar, drawing the cork and pouring the sparkling wine into shallow, thin glasses, then straightening his white tie, kept glancing with a noticeable smile of pleasure at Stepan Arkadyevitch. You don't care much for oysters, said Stepan Arkadyevitch, drinking off his glass. Or else you're preoccupied, eh? He wanted Levin to be cheerful, yet it was not that Levin was not cheerful. He felt constrained. With what he had in his soul, it was eerie and awkward for him to be in a tavern, next to private rooms where one dined in the company of ladies, amidst this hustle and bustle. These surroundings of bronze, mirrors, gaslights, Tartars, it was all offensive to him. He was afraid to soil what was overflowing in his soul. Me? Yes, I'm preoccupied. But besides, I feel constrained by all this. You can't imagine how wild all this is for a countryman like me. Or take the nails of that gentleman I saw in your office. Yes, I could see poor Grinovich's nails interested you greatly, Stepan Arkadyevitch said, laughing. I can't help it, replied Levin. Try getting inside me. Look at it from a countryman's point of view. In the country, we try to keep our hands in a condition that makes them convenient to work with. For what we cut our nails and sometimes roll up our sleeves. While here, people purposely let their nails grow as long as they can and stick on saucers instead of cufflinks so that it would be impossible for them to do anything with their hands. Stepan Arkadyevitch smiled gaily. Yes, it's a sign that he has no need of crude labor. His mind works. Maybe. But all the same, it seems wild to me, just as it seems wild to me that while we countrymen try to eat our fill quickly so that we can get on with what we have to do, you and I are trying our best not to get full for as long as possible, and for that we eat oysters. Well, of course, Stepan Arkadyevitch picked up. But that's the aim of civilization, to make everything an enjoyment. Well, if that's its aim, I'd rather be wild. You're wild as it is. All you Levins are wild. Levin sighed. He remembered his brother Nikolai and felt ashamed and pained. He frowned, but Oblonsky began talking about a subject that distracted him at once. So, you're going to see our people tonight, the Sherbatskys, he said, pushing aside the empty scabrous shells and drawing the cheese towards him, his eyes shining significantly. Yes, I'll certainly go, replied Levin, though it seemed to me the princess invited me reluctantly. Come now, what nonsense! That's her manner. Well, my good man, serve the soup. That's her manner, the grand dame, said Stepan Arkadyevitch. I'll come too, only I have to go to a choir rehearsal at Countess Benin's first. Well, what are you if not wild? How else would you explain the way you suddenly disappeared from Moscow? The Shabatskys kept asking me about you, as if I should know. I know only one thing. You always do, what nobody else does. Yes, Levine said slowly and with agitation. You're right. I am wild. Only my wildness isn't in my leaving, but in my coming now. I've come now. Oh, what a lucky man you are, Stepan Arkadyevich picked up, looking into Levine's eyes. Why? Bold steeds, I can tell by their something or other thighs, and young men in love by the look in their eyes, declaimed Stepan Arkadyevich. You've got everything before you. And with you it's already behind? No, not behind. But you have the future and I the present. A bit of this, a bit of that, and not so good. Well, but I don't want to talk about myself, and besides, it's impossible to explain everything, said Stepan Arkadyevich. So have you come to Moscow for... Hey, clear away, he called to the Tartar. Can't you guess? Replied Levine, gazing steadily at Stepan Arkadyevich, his eyes lit from within. I can, but I can't be the first to speak of it. By that alone you can see whether I've guessed right or not, said Stepan Arkadyevich, glancing at Levine with a subtle smile. Well, what do you say? Levine said in a trembling voice, and feeling all the muscles in his face trembling. How do you look at it? Stepan Arkadyevich slowly drank his glass of Chablis, not taking his eyes off Levine. I? Said Stepan Arkadyevich. I'd like nothing better than that. Nothing. It's the best thing that could happen. But you're not mistaken. You do know what we're talking about, Levine said, fastening his eyes on his interlocutor. You think it's possible? I think it's possible. Why should it be impossible? No, you really think it's possible? Tell me all you think. Well, and what if I should be refused? And I'm even certain. Why do you think so? Stepan Arkadyevich said, smiling at his friend's excitement. It sometimes seems so to me, but that would be terrible both for me and for her. Well, in any case, for a girl there's nothing terrible in it. Every girl is proud of being proposed to. Yes, every girl, but not she. Stepan Arkadyevich smiled. He knew so well this feeling of Levine's, knew that for him all the girls in the world were divided into two sorts. One sort was all the world's in the girl except her, and these girls had all human weaknesses and were very ordinary girls. The other sort was her alone, with no weaknesses and higher than everything human. Wait, have some sauce, he said, stopping Levine's hand, which was pushing the sauce away. Levine obediently took some sauce, but would not let Stepan Arkadyevich eat. No, wait. Understand that for me it's a question of life and death. I've never talked about it with anyone, and I can't talk about it with anyone but you. Look, here we are, strangers and everything, different tastes, views, everything. But I know that you love me and understand me, and for that I love you terribly. So for God's sake, be completely open. I'm telling you what I think, Stepan Arkadyevich said, smiling. But I'll tell you more. My wife is a most remarkable woman, Stepan Arkadyevich sighed, remembering his relations with his wife, and after a moment's silence went on. She has a gift of foresight. She can see through people. But more than that, she knows what's going to happen, especially along marital lines. She predicted, for instance, that Shakovskoy would marry Brinteln. No one wanted to believe it, but it turned out to be so, and she's on your side. Meaning what? Meaning not just that she loves you, she says Kitty will certainly be your wife. At these words, Levine's face suddenly lit up with a smile, of the sort that is close to tears of tenderness. She says that, Levine cried. I always said she was a delight, your wife. Well, enough talking about it, he said, getting up from his seat. All right, only do sit down. The soup's coming. But Levine could not sit down. He paced the little cell of a room, twice with his firm strides, blinked his eyes to keep the tears from showing, and only then sat down at the table again. "Understand," he said, "that it isn't love. I've been in love, but this is not the same. This is not my feeling, but some external force taking possession of me. I left because I decided it could not be, you understand, like a happiness that doesn't exist on earth. But I have struggled with myself, and I see that without it there is no life. And I must resolve." "Then why did you go away?" Wait. So many thoughts. I have so much to ask. Listen, you can't imagine what you've done for me by what you've said. I'm so happy that I've even become mean. I've forgotten everything. I found out today that my brother Nikolai, he's here. I forgot about him too. It seems to me that he's happy too. It's like madness. But there's one terrible thing. You're married. You know this feeling. The terrible thing is that we're older men who already have a past, not of love, but of sins, suddenly become close with a pure, innocent being. It's disgusting, and so you can't help feeling yourself unworthy." "Well, you don't have so many sins." Even so," said Levine, "even so. With disgust reading over my life, I tremble and curse and bitterly complain." "Yes. No help for it. That's how the world is made," Stepan Arkadyevich said. "There's one consolation, as in that prayer I've always loved, that I may be forgiven not according to my deserts, but out of mercy. That's also the only way she could forgive me." End of chapter 10.